Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I look at a brand new expansion coming to Kickstarters for Heroes of Tenefyr. This is The Second Curse by Broken Mill. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 45 minutes to an hour to play, and is a fully cooperative game, so all the players are working together to defeat the boss they've chosen to go against. This expansion does require the base game to play, so if you're looking to pick this up, make sure you have the base game as well. And with this one, it's going to introduce 4 brand new characters for the players to choose from. It's also going to introduce the players to a whole ton of new monsters for the 5 different levels of the dungeons, 4 new bosses, and some new rewards to go along with that. So as always, if you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider that like button, subscribe to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, also consider ringing that bell to get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table, and I'll show you what this one's all about. The one other thing I want to mention before getting into the game is that all the materials you see are prototype materials and are subject to change and will look a lot better when the final production copy is done. As you can see, some of them even don't have artwork yet, so some of this stuff is still being worked on, so just keep that in mind as you watch the video. From there, let me take a look at what is included in the game. So you're going to get 4 brand new heroes with their brand new skill cards. You'll have 5 new rewards, 1 for each of the levels. You'll have 4 bosses. There's only 3 here that I have, but there will be a 4th boss included, and then a huge selection of brand new dungeon cards for dungeons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Moving over to the heroes, each one of these expansion heroes is going to work completely different than the heroes that were included in the base game. So the first one I'm going to look at is the Grave Master, and this is a really interesting hero. With her ability, she is going to be doing a lot of deck manipulation. So her special ability with hers is that you can discard this card into the discard pile, and then you can choose one of the cards in your discard pile to shuffle back into your deck. And then once this card is in the discard pile, you can discard a basic 0 card to bring this back into your hand. So she is going to be really good at deck manipulation. The downside to this is that you are going to have to hold on to some of those basic 0 cards instead of trying to get rid of them out of your deck. But she is a very powerful character from the looks of it. The Paladin character's skill is going to allow that player to discard the top card from their deck, and this will allow them to double one of the cards in their hand. This is also going to allow each of the other players to shuffle up to 2 cards with 1 power from their discard back into their decks. So a really interesting ability with the Paladin. The Tactician character has a special skill that is going to allow that player to shuffle that card back into their deck, and then if they do, they can select one player to search their deck for any card of their choice and then place it on top of their deck. And then finally, the Tactician player gets to draw an extra card. So I can see this being really powerful, especially in critical situations. If this card comes up, it could really mean the difference between failing or passing a dungeon. And the final expansion character is the Tech Mage. And with this character, that card has 2 different options. The player can either gain 2 of the gear tokens, and they get to draw an extra card, or they can spend up to 7 gear tokens, and for each one they spend, they're going to add +1 to this card. So this could be a really powerful card later in the game, or as they build up those tokens, it could really come at a critical time. So really interesting character. I also have the pleasure of showing you the very first stretch goal, which is the Ranger, and I'm really excited about this character as she has a wolf companion. So with the Ranger, when her skill card comes up, she can choose to discard the top 2 cards from her deck and then let her wolf take a turn. And the wolf will get to draw 2 cards from his deck. And his deck will start off with a basic set of cards, and then as he plays them, such as the Alpha card, will let him add new cards in from his wolf deck and start customizing his deck and making himself more powerful as well. So a really interesting character, and I can't wait to try this one out. Moving over to the bosses, the first one I'm going to look at is the Bog Witch, and she is a nasty customer. Her stats are pretty high, and each one of her cards is going to be added to a player's deck at the end of combat and is going to have an effect when it comes up. There is also one card in the deck that is going to add the Swamp Leeches to the boss deck, and each one of these, when added to a player's deck when it comes up, is also going to add some really nasty negative effects. So the players are going to have a lot to deal with this boss, so it'll be fun to see how this turns out. The second boss is the Ancient of the Wood, and this boss is a really unique boss as he has some pretty high stats as well, but he also has both benefits and negatives with each of his cards. So some of them will add cards back into a player's deck, some will take cards away, but each one of them has different effects that are going to be both positive and negative to the players depending on how things work out. And the final boss that I have access to is Thousands of Goblins, and this one's art is not done. As you can see, there is no artwork on there yet, but this is an interesting boss as he comes with 8 cards instead of the normal 4, so his stats aren't real good, but you're going to have to chew through quite a few cards in this boss, and each one of these is going to have different effects as well. So another fun boss to take up the challenge and see if you can prevail against him. And the last thing I want to show you is just a quick sample turn. I want to use some of the new expansion characters that are included, and this is not the full setup of the game. If you want to check that out, I do have a full teaching video to show you how the game plays exactly. But this is just a sampling, so I'm just going to take you through one dungeon and show you how these players work. Now this is a level 3 dungeon, and so I did add some level 1 and 2 cards to the players' decks as they would have already have tackled those. So we're going to start off with the Paladin, and to begin a player's turn, they will enter the draw phase where they're going to draw the top 3 cards of their deck. They'll look at these cards and then choose if they want to keep this hand. If they don't, they'll discard those and redraw 3 new cards, and they can keep doing this up until the point where their deck runs out, and then they're exhausted and they won't be able to add anything for the rest of the combat. So you want to be careful on how often you do that. With the Zombie Ogre, he has a special power that says that each basic card gets +1 power, which is great for our players, but he is a 13, so he does take a lot to bring down. So with my player here, I have a 0, which would count as a 1 because of that, and I have a 1, so that's going to give it +1 as well, so that would be 2, so I have 3 points there, and then we have Righteous Cleave, and this one says, if you are a Paladin, and you are in level 4 or a 5 dungeon, or fighting the boss, this card gets +1 power. We are not, so this is just going to give 2, so our Paladin, has done 5 damage to the Zombie Ogre. Her turn is done, so we would pass to the next player, so the Grave Master would go, and she's going to look at her hands. And so, not the best. So she's going to go ahead and discard this. And then she'll draw 3 new cards. And this one's even worse, but she doesn't want to chew through too much of her deck, so she's going to go ahead and stay there. And this is going to add 3 to the combat. So at this point, now we're at 8 between the 2 characters, and it's going to move over to the Tactician to finish it off. Now, if the Tactician doesn't defeat the Zombie Ogre, then we are kicked out of the dungeon, and our players will suffer a penalty. So she's going to draw the top 3 cards, and that is 3. So that's pretty good. So that'll count as 1, and then each of these will count as 2, so that's another 5. Our Paladin added 5 for 10, and our Grave Master added 3 for 13. So we did defeat the Ogre, and because our player over here defeated him last, or did the killing blow, she will get his card to add to her discard pile. Then we would pass the first player token over to the next player in clockwise order, and then this would be turned upside down. And at this point, we would choose whether we want to continue or not. So we are going to continue going down into the dungeon. So we flip over the next card, and this enemy is an Unsettling Fiend. So each basic 1 card gets a -1 power, and each 0 card is going to get +1 power. So it's going to kind of flip those cards on them. So our Grave Master will be the first to go. So she's going to go ahead and draw, and she has Minor Trick, the Grave Master's skill, and Redeeming Strike. So you may discard a card from your hand to draw an extra card. +2 power if you have 3 or more basic 0 cards in your discard. So we have 1, 2, and 3. We do. So she's going to keep these. And then with this one, she's going to go ahead and use the card. So it says, if you are the Grave Master, you may discard this card from your hand and shuffle 1 card of your choice from your discard into your deck. So we'll go ahead and add this one back in. And so this will get shuffled back into the deck. And then this goes to the discard. And then if we had a basic 0, we could bring it back into our hand, but we don't. So this is going to count as 2. And then this card here is going to count as 1. So that's 3 damage on that guy. Moving over to our Tactician, she's going to draw 3. And now her card came up, and I can shuffle this card into my deck, and then one player may search their deck for a card of their choice and put it on top of their deck. So she's going to go ahead and do that. So she'll go ahead and shuffle this card into your deck. So she'll add it back in. And then she gets to draw an extra card for that. And then she's going to select another player. So we're going to go with the Gravemaster because that will help us potentially in the next combat. She's going to go through and look. And she'll take this one here and place that on top of her deck. So we'll shuffle up these other cards and then place this on top. So the next time her turn comes up, she'll get that benefit. All right, and then his power reverses these. So this is actually a 1, and this is a 0. And then this one lets us draw an extra card, which is Aid. And we don't have any of them. So this is going to count as 1, 2, and 3 damage to our player. All right, and this will go over here. And then it'll move over to our Paladin to finish them off, hopefully. And the Paladin has 2 1s, which count as 0. So right now we have a 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just need to do 2 damage. And it's not going to be enough, so we're going to go ahead and discard these and redraw. So there's a 0. And that'll be enough. We have the Horn Blast and the 0, which is going to be a 1, and this would count as a 0. So our Paladin defeated him, and he would add. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop. This will give you a good idea how the game plays, and like I said, this is just one sample. We could keep going into this dungeon, or we could choose to leave as a group, but we have to defeat all of the enemies in the dungeon to claim the reward. So I hope this helped you decide whether or not you want to back this game on Kickstarter. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them, or swing by the Kickstarter's main page and drop any questions you have there. I'm sure the creator would love to hear from you and is more than happy to answer any questions you have. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do appreciate it, and I take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. And if you found this video helpful, if you like what I do, please consider that like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really does make a big difference. It helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.